So the story of Dan Bilzerian just keeps getting that much more interesting. It's been around a month since our last Dan update, and in that time quite a bit has happened. First of all, when Trump lost the election, he personally treated it like his team lost the Super Bowl. And secondly, he finally spoke out about all the drama going on in his personal life, kinda, and made his response to all the stories and videos being written up and produced about the allegations of fraudulent activity going on around him. Remember guys, this video is all mere speculation from information I've gathered from various media sources and other financial documents, and you should draw your own conclusions. So after getting basically tag teamed by the likes of myself and Tom Nash, amongst many other writers online, this man decided to unleash a series of tweets where he not only compared himself and his business at Ignite to Uber, which is just laughable at this point, but also felt the need to tweet about his critics. Oh Dan, you have such a way with words, you stud you. There's been quite a few slam pieces on Dan the Man lately floating around the web, but I found this one particularly hilarious from Forbes. COVID-19 was good for every cannabis company except Dan Bilzerian's. This came out only weeks after Dan blamed the pandemic for ruining his sales, when in reality during this time of pandemic, all people are doing is sitting at home for the last 8 months. You would think he would have been selling grass quicker than a crackhead moving to Oregon. Also in 2019, there was no pandemic and he still burned through 50 million. So why should we believe a word out of this clown's mouth? Everyday people were also starting to clown Dan on his Twitter under every single one of his tweets because his stock was basically in the toilet, which means his company had no real worth or prospects for a bright future. His inventory was stacking up on him as no one was purchasing his products. And overall, a lot of people thought this ship was going down and Dan's reputation was going to take a hit with it. This is all public information, by the way, that can be seen by studying his financial statements. Every publicly owned company has to report a public financial statement. This way companies are held legally accountable to their many shareholders. And instead of admitting defeat and going out behind the barn and shooting this old dog, he decided to pump even more money into the cash-burning black hole that is Ignite. Because admitting defeat would simply hurt his ego too much, and he would basically be proving the skeptics right, something I feel Dan would never do. So here he is buying himself more time, and how is he doing that, you may ask? So he decided to create 25 million worth of new shares in his company, which looks really good on paper, it looks really good for the headline, but in reality $20 million worth of those shares went to paying off previous debt that basically got converted into shares from someone he already owed cash to, and he invested the other $5 million himself, most likely from daddy's offshore bank account. So in reality, the company only really got $5 million in extra cash flow for this fourth quarter of the year, but they did let go of $20 million in debt. Now that was a genius move, Dan, I do have to hand it to you. You caught another sucker on your rod and convinced them to convert debt you were never gonna pay into shares that will dwindle back down to nothing. I gotta hand it to him, he's really a chip off the old block. This ended up spiking the stock prices because investors feel like Dan, as the CEO of the company, wouldn't just throw $5 million down the drain if he wasn't serious. Also, this other creditor now owns a large percentage of stock in his company, so he has liabilities to them, and investors kind of think maybe he can turn this thing around this time. And if he can, more power to him. I don't really think it's possible, and I think he simply refuses to admit defeat. Or something really shady is going on here that they want to keep behind that curtain. Either way, the more the company sinks, the more we might see opportunity for possible fraud and other illegal activity that has occurred over time. Or maybe not, but for now we'll see if Dan the Man can steer this ship with daddy in the background controlling the sail. It's like when you tell your little cousin they can play and you pretend they are, but their controller is actually unplugged.